Hi, everybody. I am Sue Hillyard, and I am here today with Rav Chahal, and we are continuing our series on up close and personal interviews with your favorite astrologers. And today, our favorite astrologer is Verena Borell. Hi, Verena. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
I'm so happy that you invited me. What an honor to be one of the
One of our
astrologers,
faves.
one of the faves. It's kind of wow. My Pluto in the fifth house feels very seen.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
thank
sweet.
you.
Sweet. Okay, so why don't we start off with what drew you to astrology and how does it show in your chart?
Well, I would say astrology found me in a phase of my life, and especially evolutionary astrology, because maybe it's important to mention that I'm living in Austria. And when I started to dive into astrology, I lived in Germany, I lived in Munich, and no, it's evolutionary astrology in the lineage of Jeffrey Wolf Green is not so known in the German-speaking
Mm.
countries. And I have actually no idea how I found evolutionary astrology. It was with your channel, with EA Zoom meetings.
Huh.
And it was a phase in my life where I was in a deep, deep crisis. It was, I think, shortly after my Saturn return. And I was in a burnout, in a spiritual, in a mental, in a physical burnout. I was about to um, release my old business. I'm self-employed since 2014, so I was already Aries North Node, self-employed, but I released my old business and I did not know what I want to do in my life because everything that I did felt a little bit meaningless. And I was looking for healing, and in my past, I did already as a teenager, I had psychotherapy and talk therapy and all these stuff. And I had the feeling that on an intellectual level, I understood what's going on, but on a soul level, I felt so lost. And so, yeah, I deepened my yoga practice and dove more and more into spirituality. And then, yeah, I came across astrology, and then I found the EA Zoom YouTube channel, and it clicked. And yeah, I think from that point, I started to study astrology. I mean, I have so many Gemini placements in the 12th house, so I dove into astrology and I studied evolutionary astrology. And then I did my courses and programs, especially with Sabrina Monarch. She was my first teacher. And then with Ari. And yeah, then there was the pandemic. And I did not plan it, but actually, I realized that I'm giving one-on-one sessions online and people give me money for that. And then, yeah, it all just happened.
Snowballed. Snowballed
Yeah,
from there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it was really, first of all, I found evolutionary astrology for my own healing. And then it was it's often with many things that I learn. I think that is my Gemini Sagittarius axis. It's about I learn and I share, I learn and I share. And so it was very naturally for me to share what I knew. And I found that evolutionary astrology is such a magical tool to gain consciousness about what is unconscious. And our chart is really like a mirror and a map for our soul's evolution, for all of these unconscious patterns and conditioning. And it is such a helpful and powerful tool um, that I realized, wow. I mean, sometimes I thought, and I mean, astrology is no substitute for psychotherapy, but sometimes I thought, okay, what I see in my chart after 1 hour it's kind of hours of psychotherapy work in a way. So it's really powerful. So yeah, I mean, I can expand on all of that, but I'll stop
Well,
here for.
no, no, no. I just want to kind of validate and just kind of resonate with what you just said. You said that you came to EA for yourself first. I honestly feel that's the way it's happened for a lot of us.
Yeah.
Because we are looking for certain answers because there's something out there that doesn't make sense. Life doesn't make sense. Or things are happening and you're like, there's got to be a reason behind this because nothing is a coincidence. And EA, like you said, is a tool, a great tool to kind of, like you said, make the unconscious conscious because you
Yeah.
see the patterns, right? And there's an ability to look at those patterns and take responsibility.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just because you take responsibility for your life, for the choices you've made, and to where you're at. And it's interesting that it happened just after your Saturn return. Well, it's not an interesting or coincidence, because Saturn's all about self-mastery and,
Yeah, and
and
it was
coming into your
actually,
power.
yeah, and it was actually when Jupiter
Mm,
was in Sagittarius and went over all of my Sagittarius placements.
mm.
So, and in at that time, I really dove into evolutionary astrology and what you just said, I think it's so interesting because I have my Sun, my Mercury, my asteroid Vesta, my Mars, my Chiron, all in the 12th house. I have Neptune squaring my lunar nodes. Um, and when I remember, I think I was always, in hindsight, looking at my childhood, I was such a spiritual child. I mean, I asked my mother, I remember that, and she too. I asked my mother when I was, I think, in kindergarten or in elementary school. I asked her, Mom, what is the reason that I'm here? I mean, why I am who I am? And I remember this feeling, this strangeness that, and this magical strangeness in a way that how funny it is that I am me. And it's kind of, I was always having such a strong Gemini and Sagittarius axis. I was always very curious. After school, I studied philosophy and history of art. So I always was interested in the bigger meaning of life and the bigger meaning of my life. And then I would say I got a little bit lost because of too much fire inside of me and a very harsh conditioning that I'm just worthy when I'm working hard.
Mm.
And my Aries North Node, Venus, fire, and ability to fight in a more destructive way, so that I would say it was part of my way, and also it was a little bit losing my way, that I tried to achieve things. Um, and yeah, also my Pluto in the fifth house, I think, kicked in. There was a part of me that was never seen by one of my parents, and I was a little bit, this part of me was a little bit addicted to getting getting
Attention?
yeah, getting attention or getting just being seen and being
Seen.
validated. Yeah, seen and validated. So fifth house. And I was constantly in situations in my job and also in my relationships where I was fighting hard and working hard to be finally seen, and I was not. And so I went into directions that were actually very, very exhausting and never satisfying. And yeah, I mean, I don't regret anything that I did because it brought me to it. It is part of my path, and I'm actually very grateful for everything that happened. And also, I was there with 30 something and was looking at my life and thought, wow, that is actually not what I'm here for. What I actually do right now is looks very nice and even glamorous. Pluto in the fifth house from outside. So I had my own online magazine and podcast, everything in the area of cocktails and fine drinking culture and bar culture and gastronomy and all of these things. So it was it was great. I had a good time. I had fun, but I had also a lot of hard work. I worked myself up there. You knew me. I mean, I traveled around the world, but inside it felt I felt lost.
Hollow.
Lonely.
Yeah. I was gonna say empty, but Verena, look at that. Your South Node is Libra, right? The
Yeah.
ruler of that is Venus in the 10th house. Look at
Yeah.
that glamorous lifestyle on the center stage, right? The world is kind of seeing somebody, a lot of people going, wow, I want what she has from the
Yeah.
external appearance.
Yeah.
Is it in the 10th or the 11th?
In the
Sorry,
11th.
11th.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
With Jupiter,
Yeah.
and your North Node. So I mean, you've got to try a lot of different things, and you have to be the first one to do it. And
And it's so exhausting because sometimes I have really the feeling, again, with evolutionary astrology, I mean, everything that I did in my life, I was always the first, and I had the 11th house struggle that nobody gets what I'm doing because I'm creating something completely new. With evolutionary astrology in Germany and Austria, it's a little bit like that. And now I'm doing somatic experiencing, which is not so popular in Europe, in the German speaking rooms too. And before that, I created a whole new concept around blog podcast. I mean, I had a podcast when nobody knew what a podcast is. So it's, yeah,
the
it's
pioneer. So tell us a little bit about the somatic experiencing
Yeah, I would love to. So with somatic,
and how it relates to astrology and to your chart.
yeah, with somatic experiencing, it was again like that. I have the feeling it found me. So to continue this, my healing path or journey, I mean, I have my moon in Sagittarius. Everything is a journey. Um, I was very deep into evolutionary astrology. I unlocked this very powerful tool. I understood so much more in regard to my own conditioning, my past lives. Um, I started to work more with the Akashic records, and we talked about that before we started the recording, that it felt like I did not need to learn it. It's kind of messages are coming through me every time. And sometimes it's actually even too much. So it's I could channel the whole day. Um, and there are always so many insights and information and ideas in my head that it's sometimes it's magical and powerful, and sometimes it's just exhausting. And I think it is very, very natural for me and very easy for me to be in these higher chakras, to be in the air, to be in these spiritual realms. And it was more and more that I realized that, I mean, I have my sun in Taurus in the 12th house, squaring my MC in Aquarius by degree. And it became more and more clear to me that I was actually completely disconnected from my body, and my body is always in a fight flight. And I realized that
That's not good for Taurus.
no, and I also realized that I was exercising a lot. So I did this Aries body thing. So running, not running because I have a problem with my heel, but riding my bicycle, and I love to move. I love to, but it's not this deep body connection. It's not this felt sense of being in the body. And my problem was that I understood all of my, or I understood so many of my patterns, and especially this pattern around working hard and needing to fight for everything, this belief. And I wanted to release it. And I realized that even though I want on a mental level to relax, I could not do that. My body was kind of in constant tension. And it was actually during the Mars retrograde, the last Mars retrograde in Gemini. I had it, my Mars is in Gemini. It's stationed retrograde on my Mars in Gemini.
Wow.
It was my nervous system was freaking out.
Yeah.
I could not help myself any longer. I was nervous 24/7. I was overwhelmed all the time, and I could not calm myself down with my thoughts. And I thought,
Course,
okay,
yeah. Wow.
gosh, what is happening? I have understood so many of my problems, of my conditioning with the
I
help of
can't think this through. I can't think this away.
and think that away. And so I came to somatic experiencing, and I realized, okay, there's something missing. It's the somatic level. And then I started to, I did different courses from different teachers in the area of somatics and somatic experiencing. And then I decided to do a 3-year-long professional training with Somatic Experiencing International. I'm in my second year now. And again, it was very, very clear to me that this is something that I don't know, that is not only for me, I also want to share it with my clients, because I realized that many of my clients are like, yeah, I understand that, but I cannot put it into action. So I'm self-sabotaging, or I don't understand why I cannot do it, even though I understand it. And so here comes the connection that I see with evolutionary astrology and somatic experiencing. So I feel, yeah, follow me. I don't see myself as an astrologer. I see myself as a light worker or spiritual rebel who works with different tools, and evolutionary astrology is one very important tool for me. And somatic experiencing becomes more and more an important tool for me. And maybe there are other tools, but my guides are always telling me, as cheesy as it sounds, you are here to bring light. And as far as I understand them right now, that means I'm here to bring consciousness. And for me, evolutionary astrology is a great, great way to bring consciousness on a spiritual and mental and intellectual level, consciousness into your unconscious, all of these Pluto topics, right? The unconscious fears and why your soul is here, and looking at your evolutionary axis and so on. And actually, I'm realizing more and more that somatic experiencing is about bringing consciousness to your unconscious nervous system reactions and to your unconscious dynamics on a somatic level, so that you actually become more and more aware and conscious on all levels, so that you realize, oh, wow, I actually feel fear. And then you can dive deeper into that and find new solutions on a somatic level without thinking. So I have my one-on-one soul and soma offerings, where I really combine evolutionary astrology and somatic experiencing, and it works so well. And it's very intuitive. So it depends on if I have guidance clients that are persons who are coming for me over several weeks or months. So we already know each other or if it is a new client. And usually it's like part of the session, we look at the chart and we talk about the topics. And then often there comes this point where it is like, okay, I I see that the person has understood it, but now let's drop into the body. How does that feel? What do you notice on a somatic level? And then we can go deeper and explore, okay, what is maybe stuck? Yeah, so it's very interesting.
So is somatic experiencing like guided imagery, or is it body work? Is it in person, or is it you know, how
Yeah,
do you how does a session
yeah.
progress?
It's very different depending on who gives it.
Mhm.
So somatic experiencing is really you can do it online. Um, there are, I mean, I have the it's always so difficult to describe because it is something that you need to experience.
Right, right.
And
Thus the name. And
so
somatic, the body. I mean, the
yeah, so
feelings.
for everybody who is very interested in that, Peter Levine is the founder
Oh,
of
okay.
it, and the Institute Somatic Experiencing International is founded by Peter Levine, where I'm doing my practitioner training.
Oh,
And it's actually it's about you learn. It's about trauma work, nervous system work, but it also includes not only the physical body, we are also working with the energy body. So images are part of it, or that I might ask a client, okay, you say you are afraid of, okay, what, where do you feel the sense of being afraid in your body? And then maybe they say, okay, I have tension in my chest. And then I say, okay, is it okay for you if we explore that? Is there a certain color or an image that arises? And then maybe, so there are different
yeah.
tools and techniques. And if you are a body worker, you could also combine it with somatic experiencing. But I can do, and you can do somatic experiencing completely without touching another person. Um, it is a and I'm in training, so I'm not yet a practitioner, but I can already use so many tools and techniques from somatic experiencing, especially because I'm very clear that I have, of course, my boundaries. So I'm not a trauma therapist. So if you are a trauma therapist and work with somatic experiencing, you could work with severe trauma. I know where my boundaries are at, but it is very good for people like me who feel this disconnection to the body, who feel like, okay, I'm so much in my mind and maybe I have understood it on a mental level, but my body is doing her own thing and I actually want to understand the signals of my body better to act more consciously and not being actually in a more reaction because of unresolved fear or stress or yeah.
Can I ask a question? Because you've got Virgo Pisces intercepted in your chart, and Virgo is intercepted in the fourth house, which we know in evolutionary astrology is the natural house of Cancer, the moon, the emotional body. So I find it very fascinating how this somatic experience has come to you, for you to probably even learn yourself to move your own, to release your own trauma, right? Because there might be certain parts of the mind, for example, because first of all, we will think it, right? It's like because you don't want to feel it because it can be painful
Yeah.
having to go into your emotional body to release it, and that's what, and I feel the work you're doing and you're working towards being a practitioner in is kind of saying to anyone that comes to you from, let's say, a year perspective, X, Y, and Z is happening. Why is it happening? Yes, even, analyzing the birth chart, you can see potential trauma. And I agree with you. We're not therapists. We're not trained to be trauma therapists. but there's a certain way you can articulate that to a client to say, there's something I'm seeing which you need to look into because this could be the potential cause of whatever block you're going through. And the emotional body in EA is such a vital tool, hence the nodes, right? Hence we work with the lunar nodes and stuff. And your moon being in the sixth house links back to Virgo, natural
Mm.
house of Virgo. So it's sort of like you were always meant to work with, you were meant to ground the body, but it starts with grounding yourself first, right? So your guides are like, let's work with you here. Like, slow down. We said this before we started recording. The channeling's coming through and it's like, right, right, right. But it could also be telling you to, yes, write it down and then looking at it and going, this resonates.
Yeah,
This is maybe not for today. So that
yeah.
information can come through. It's about deciphering what that information is, discriminating what needs to be shared, right?
I love that, Rob. That's so, so fitting. And especially, I want to touch upon two things that you just, yeah, said and said very well and wise. The one thing is that in regard to somatic experiencing and evolutionary astrology, um, and knowing about the boundaries that we maybe have, I really love somatic experiencing because it is a very, it is so trauma informed. So it is really about slowing fuck down. It's really sometimes it's challenging for my air and fire energy, and it's so healing for my sun and Taurus because
Mm,
trauma is too much too fast.
yeah.
And so everything is about slowing the process down and being very conscious and aware of the capacity of the body. So I would never override the capacity of a client. And it is all about being very, and I think that is true for evolutionary too, evolutionary astrology too. I mean, I think it is really the task and also in a way, in a certain way, also a responsibility of the reader or of the person who gives the session that we are very, especially when we see a person just for one session and for the first time, that we are really very well attuned how much we want to go and how deep we can go with this person. Because with evolutionary astrology, we can go deep and we could go into the trauma vortex, how we
Yes.
call it somatic experiencing, and seeing where's the counter vortex, the area in the body or even yeah in life that is
Yes.
good and safe is so important. And what you said about my Virgo energy in the moon, I think what I did not mention was that so I have my sun in 20-degree Taurus in the 12th house. And of course, somatic experiencing came to me when Uranus was on my sun.
Wow.
So Uranus going over my sun in Taurus, and I mean, it's still in orb.
Yeah.
I still feel it. And I'm still in the process. I'm not finished with this lesson. But one of the biggest, yeah, messages that I received from my spirit guides during this time and still is really that it feels and it felt like I have I don't have a spiritual awakening because I think I'm already born spiritual awakened. It felt like an awakening in the body and onto earth. It feels like being born for a second time, but this time really into my body.
Right.
And it is like this huge awakening on a somatic level for me. And that is quite challenging because I mean, it has a reason why um, my soul decided that it is maybe safer and less painful to be very much up in the air and not be so much in the body. Yeah.
Something interesting that you probably have noticed, in your progressed chart, your moon is 29 degrees of Aries.
Mm-hmm.
So you're ending an emotional cycle of, whatever you've been progressing through, Aries, 29 degrees, of course, thinking back to the natal Mars in that 12th house, right? So it's sort of like taking action in a way with Gemini, because your Mars is in Gemini, right? So ruled by Mercury. And your Mercury is stationary. It's stationary in your progress chart. So it's going to go retrograde. So you
Mm-hmm.
talk about channeling now. Verena, I think what's coming is remembering of information from maybe previous lifetimes coming through.
And
So maybe this
also,
is also just a
and also,
preparation.
and also, your sun is at 29 degrees Gemini.
Yeah. I
So,
just wanted to mention that
Yeah.
I'm so excited about that because I really have the feeling that something will happen. I mean, since I'm 7 years old, my progressed sun is in Gemini. And
Yes.
when I think I learned about that around 2025, 2026, my progressed sun will go into Cancer. I think I learned that a couple of years ago. It was before I started to learn about somatic experiencing, and I was like, oh my gosh, Cancer. Oh, what will happen? And now I'm like, wow,
Wow.
that is so cool because I realized
Amazing.
that, I mean, Cancer and Capricorn are the energies that are squaring my lunar nodes. And I
Mhm.
realized everything that I connect with Cancer energy, um, people, but also think like ceremonial cacao, all of these things that are nurturing are so medicine for me. And I'm like, okay, maybe. And my Mercury stationing in Cancer, so in my progress chart, stationing retrograde in Cancer, maybe this will actually help me to even deepen this process, to connect with my body, with my emotional body, slowing down, going more
Mhm.
into yin energies. And because it is still I'm completely honest, it is still a struggle um, to not run all the fucking time. And not only because of my conditioning around hard work, and but also because there are so much, there is so much creative energy. I mean, I have Pluto in the fifth house. It's kind of, I'm here to create things all the time. And I don't allow myself, after birthing one project after another, to actually be in postpartum and slow down and relax.
Well, your Pluto's retrograde, Verena, right? So you're redoing stuff, but also maybe the message is review what's been done. So maybe
I love
doing it in a different way. Do you know what I mean? And that links to your North Node in the 11th house. Different, unique,
it.
and being different because there's a need to be different, not because you have to be different, because the world needs something different. We've got Pluto and Aquarius right now. We have to, something has to change,
And
right?
so aligned, Rob, what you're saying, because another message that I receive from my spirit guides very often is like that, don't be irritated so I think one big lesson, and that is really, really personal, that I'm working on to learn since years is that I I'm on my path. I share what feels aligned and what comes through me. And I learn to become more and more independent if people like it or not. So it's really this fifth house, Pluto in the fifth house. And I make experiences that are very different. Sometimes I get a lot of love for that, what I'm sharing and what I'm doing. Sometimes nobody signs up. and inner child Verena feels like devastated. And I'm learning slowly, but surely since years now to become more, and somatic experiencing helps with that, to gain more and more safety in myself and trust that it is part of my way and of my calling to bring something new, because I am, as you are, you and I and we all that are watching that have chosen to incarnate in a time where it is all about creating a new earth and letting go of the old ways and creating the new. And I know, and when I see so bad things happen in the world, it's like my soul is telling me, oh yes, that's because you are here right now, because you are here to bring change. And if you say things that are new, and if you bring things that are new and that are not the noun, because the noun is not working, as you all realize. And when you bring things that are not the noun and that are new, you cannot expect that everyone applauds you, that everyone gets it.
Right.
And I mean, I think I'm not the only one who make these experiences now. I think there are many light workers or healers who have this experience that, there is this strong calling, and also there's the human being who struggles with people are not signing up, or people are not
They don't
No
like
one's
me.
seeing me.
They don't
Yeah.
love me.
Yeah.
They don't want me.
Libra South Node and Pluto in the fifth house is like, but I just want that you see me and that you love me. Yeah.
Okay,
No,
so
I resonate. Yeah.
yes, I have a couple of comments. One is that you were talking about how you're always running, and the your Sagittarius moon just popped right in, and opposite your Mercury. I mean, you've got Mercury in Gemini, so I love the way you articulate things. I mean, and you do it in a couple of different languages as well. So I mean, you have a practice in German as well, which which leads me to another thought that we'll put links in the description to all of these things that we've talked about, and contact information for you. But to take a little kind of a zig, um, I I know you love asteroids, and I have been, and that's, I'm I love pointing out, and looking and seeing what connections are. So, the one thing that I noticed in your chart is Atlantis is at the very bottom of your chart, as it is in mine, and it's also in Leo at like 22 degrees. So it's like right on your IC I think in your third house. But
Fourth,
I
fourth
mean,
house is.
conjunct your IC, and also conjunct my Venus, which I find really interesting, and therefore Rav's Jupiter. So here we are,
Yes.
talking about being seen and being loved. And do you have any resonance with Atlantis?
Yeah, the fun thing is when I remember it correctly, she's also connected to Diana.
Right.
And I mean, you see Diana right behind
Right.
me.
Yeah.
I mean, Diana is my favorite asteroid. She's squaring my lunar nodes. I have written a book about her. And so I connect Atlanta very much with Diana, but and it's interesting, I did not know that she is on my IC, so she's also squaring my sun in Taurus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's interesting when she's in Leo, and then she also is in a trine to my Venus in Aries, and my Saturn and Uranus in Sagittarius. So yeah, I'm totally open to your reflections about that, Sue. But yeah, I really love this
Well, yeah, I mean,
story.
I'm learning and I'm presenting it to other people, but I mean, I just love Atlantis, and I think it has to do with how we receive and um, deal with energy. I mean, I think I think that was the whole thing with Atlantis, was that we um, misused energy, and therefore it blew up, you know. And
Yeah.
so I just wonder if you would have, I mean, and okay, so then there's another connection that I see a parallel with what you're talking about with the somatic experiencing with deep memory process, which
Yeah.
is past life regression that has to do, I mean, the basic premise is that our bodies remember like our dying thoughts, and carry that impression forward into this life. So I just wonder, how that you know I think it just seems like it is vital to experience in the time that we're in now, because energy is so we know so little about it, and it's one of those things it's unseen, but yet you feel it,
It's real.
I mean,
It's real.
I'm a
Yeah.
child of the 60s, and we used to always talk about vibes, you know. He was vibing me out, or she was vibing me out.
Yeah, totally. And I think, I mean, I really connect with all of these certain different approaches in regard to energy and energy work. So, I mean, there are so many different ways you can work with energy, or you can talk about energy, or how you can experience energy. And I think, thinking in astrological archetypes, I think Aquarius is so much about energy, but it is more this Akashic energy, more this air energy. And I think Pisces is so much about the energies on a more emotional,
Invisible.
invisible level. Yeah. And
Mhm.
also, I really like, and I feel that we have an energy body. I mean, I cannot see an aura. Some people can see it, I cannot see it, but I feel it for myself. And I also feel it when I'm with other people and they are too close. And it's kind of, oh, it's you're going
It's
into my
the
energy
vibe.
body. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. And so I think that humankind has forgotten so many skills that we already had. I mean, when we talk about also things like um, this old culture, which was where Hawaii is now. Um, ah, I don't remember the name. I have to look it up for you.
Okay.
I
While
was
you're do while you're doing that, I just want to make one little observation that I see in your progress chart is all of your Gemini and Taurus and Gemini in the 12th house has turned into Gemini and Cancer. And you were talking about how the last Mars retrograde was in Gemini, and it kicked off, the need to do the somatic processing. Well, now the Mars retrograde is in Cancer, and it's going, across your progressed Mars and ascendant, and it will get almost just, within minutes, 11 minutes of your Mercury, your stationary Mercury.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
so yeah.
So I think there's a couple of things that come up with that. Is that very, very funny? You already mentioned that I'm very much in this Gemini, German, English. So I have of many, I would say most of my offerings are in both languages. So my newsletter is in German and English. I have courses and workshop where I have one German version and one English version. And also, and this is something that is just German. I just finished the first draft of a book that I'm writing together with Chiara Butendeich. She's from Germany and she's working with herbs and the tarot. And we are writing a book for a German publisher, Königsfurt Urania. And this is happening while my Mercury is stationing retrograde, and the book will be published in Germany, Austria, Switzerland in autumn 2025. So it feels like that's so interesting to know that my Mercury is stationing retrograde, and there comes out this book. And I also know that I really want to write more books. I love to write books. Now with the Mars retrograde in Cancer, I think, yeah, there are many, many things that are showing up in regard to how I can or cannot receive and how I can or cannot take care of my body and my own needs. So all of these Cancer topics, how I can or cannot mother myself. And also it's in my second house. It's a lot of financial things too. So how I can earn money in a way that feels actually nourishing and not draining to me. Yeah.
I love it.
But with the Cancer also, Verena, it's very much the lesson is internal emotional security, right? So anything outside could be happening, that security is from within. And you know you're being led to the highest good for yourself.
And additionally, with the North Node, transitioning North Node in Pisces now going through my 10th house, I really feel, okay, there's a need to release a lot of things and a lot of offerings, a lot of ways how I work. And I mean, it just started. I have no idea where we are going, but there is this deep, deep sense of trust and find safety within Mars and Cancer, and trust that everything will unfold in divine timing and that new solutions will come. And it's it's not it's not easy for the human self, for my human part, that says, and my sun in Taurus too, that says, wow, survival fears kicking in, and how and will it work out? And on the other hand, I know that this is all part of my healing process of slowing down and releasing these old patterns around overriding my body and overriding my capacity because I have this feeling of I need
But
to.
also where you've lost faith in the divine, possibly. You know, your Neptune squaring the nodes in Capricorn. So, it's like you said, you're right, it is difficult. We're human beings. We have certain fears that will kick in, but it's being able to slow down and be in the present moment, here, right now, without overthinking stuff as well.
Yeah. I'm actually very interested in your perspective on my Neptune squaring the nodes because it's so funny. I always have the feeling that I have I made I participated in so many workshops about planets squaring the lunar nodes and especially Neptune squaring the lunar nodes. And it's this even with Neptune transits, and I mean transiting Neptune in Pisces is still squaring my AC DC and it squared my Mars and all of my stuff. It's kind of I mean, it's part of the Neptunian energy, but I have the feeling I have still not figured out what it means to have Neptune squaring the nodes. And I think this is part of having Neptune squaring the nodes.
So let me say, before you jump in, Rob, let me just say one thing. I have watched myself stumble and fumble when I try to explain Neptune to clients. I mean, it's just one of those things that you can't explain. So that said, I am struck by the similarity of your chart, Rav, with Verena's because you have all that 12th house energy and Neptune square the nodes.
Where are
So
the notes? Yeah.
I mean,
I
carry
feel
on.
like
I have some
now like
ideas about it, but I would actually be very curious for your.
well, yes. Well, this is it's going to be a very quick perspective. That is one of the first things I noticed. Okay, Neptune squaring the nodes. And as we know, Neptune, it's those, it's disillusionment, right? We can't really see. We're trying to like wipe the lenses clean to see, and it's like the fog is still there. Well, for yourself, first of all, the seventh house is to do with relating, right? Sort of relationships, but ultimately relating in a balanced way.
Yeah,
So, in previous incarnations, what I see here is a soul who's to and fro, balance, not balance, balance, not balance, right? Actually linked to probably spiritual work that you've been doing in a past lifetime. And I do feel you've picked up from where you left off. Pluto retrograde straight away screams to me, we're going to redo the past because we didn't quite get it right. And the soul needs to get it right to evolve. Okay. And that square where you sit, so the ruler of your Neptune, which you look at, which is in Capricorn, is your Saturn in the sixth house, natural house of Virgo in its conjunct Uranus, which are both retrograde. You have a retrograde chart. There's a lot of internal stuff going on, Verena, right? Though the urge is to run forward and take action and do, it's actually saying, step back, slow down. Meditation is big for you,
yeah.
very big, right?
Twice a day.
It's like if you don't do it, you know, when somebody gets hungry, it's because they haven't eaten. It can be that kind of feeling. I'm giving you a Taurus analogy here of food. And I see that for yourself as who you listen who the question is who you're listening to. Seventh
Yeah,
house is the outer listing, right? Because Taurus is the psychology of what you're hearing. So, so the seventh house for me can be what am I listening to? Where have I placed my values? It's actually coming back to deconditioning from patriarchal systems that have completely um I'm gonna use the word trauma, but you know what I mean. I don't mean trauma in the sense of complete like whoa, but it's disassociated you from your own system, which is the
yeah,
body. You know, as human beings, we are here to we're on a collective journey, and unfortunately, over millennia, we've forgotten that we're actually connected to one another, and the ego can make it look like my survival, my needs, my values. In here, it's very much going, okay, do unto others as others would so do to others as you expect others to do to you. That's the
yeah,
key message. So it could just be in this lifetime relationships that you will potentially have attracted or do attract where they're just a projection of a mirror to what's internally going on within you. So it's
yeah,
just turning it back onto yourself. Self-responsibility, self-mastery, Capricorn. So that's
yeah.
just a quick thing that I saw when I was looking at your chart. And yeah, so you're right. I looked at your chart and went, we have a lot of similarities.
Thank you so much, Rev. Your interpretation was spot on. And especially I think it's so interesting what you said about this yeah, deconditioning. And I mean, my life feels like a whole deconditioning and rewiring process. So Diana is squaring the lunar node too. So it's I feel this lesson so deeply. And also what you said about this balance in regard to
Yes.
spirit work, especially, I really feel that this, okay, sometimes I have the feeling, okay, um, it's kind of, it's not in balance what I give and what I receive. So it's
Yeah.
kind of, I give and give and give, and I have the feeling that it's it's it's
Is
not
it?
coming back.
I know
Yeah,
what you mean.
yeah,
Neptune, I have Neptune in the third house and Sagittarius squaring the nodes. And there's been times, and it's going to be very real here, where it's like I'm saying to God's source energy, okay, I'm giving, giving, giving. What's coming back to me? But then I have to, my Virgo is slow down, be in the present moment. It's that typical Virgo for me of one step at a time. And
yeah,
I have to come out of my own comfort zone, and I know that. But it's, yeah, we're human. But we have to remember that spiritual beings having a human experience. That's such a good a key thing for Neptune in Capricorn. Remembering
Yeah,
that your spiritual beings having a human experience. Yeah.
yeah. I love that. I really love that. And especially, I think for me, it's very special because Neptune is also conjunct my series. So there is
Yes.
something
Yes.
about, there is, I mean, this whole topic of really around care and self-care and
Mm,
this balance, and also this trusting natural cycles. I think it's really strong for me. And
yeah.
yeah, I'm in the learning process of how can I
Yeah.
find more balance in ways of receiving and giving and sharing, and especially
But
with
I
my
feel, yeah, but I honestly do feel we'll be doing this for until our last breaths because this is the journey we've signed up for. This is the blueprint, the snapshot of the universe we needed for our own evolution. So as much as there'll be times where you think I've got it, great, something else will happen because we're just completely taken off the layers of the onion, right? Because
Mm,
there's got to come a point where there's complete trust and surrender. I don't know if I'll do it in this lifetime. Very likely not. I think that's for the avatars that have achieved that. But it's the intention. I'm such a big believer in intention of anything is what gives you the results. The pure intention, essentially.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, completely. And I think there's also something about, for me personally, with having it in an earth energy and having my sun in
Mm,
Taurus, that there's really what you already said, is slowing
yeah.
down. Um, yeah, and I mean, this is really much the work that I'm doing right now is this
Mm,
every day trying to not go into this pattern of doing, sharing, but really calming down, coming to the body and see, okay, what is actually my physical capacity? So
mm,
what am I actually able? Because all of my air and fire energy often forgets that I'm having a body, there is time, there is space. So,
yes.
kind of, oh, my day has just 24 hours? Really? It's
What?
what?
That is so perfect. That is so perfect for your Ceres conjunct Saturn, and your part of fortune is
Fine.
right in between that. So I mean, it's just it's just perfect. I mean, you've perfectly described what I mean. What restrictions? I mean, and feel and having to figure out what it is that nourishes me, and
Yeah.
in this body, in this time, in this, with these restrictions.
Yeah.
And really,
Definitely.
really, yeah, going away. I have the feeling that I really discover, I rediscover my Sun and Taurus energy. So when I look at pictures when I was a child, I'm such a Taurus child. I'm
Mm.
this child that loves to eat. And I was like naked out in the rain and dancing in the rain. Like, I mean, I'm just this Taurus girl. And then I think I stepped more into this air energy.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
now I'm rediscovering my Taurus energy, and that feels so good because it feels like that is something that I have lost in a way, or that I have forgotten about. And it is this, okay, maybe really leaning back, slowing down, and seeing that there's not only struggle and not only the need to serve in a way and the need to be a healer or somebody who helps others, but also this allowance to, yeah, but and also you can enjoy life.
Yeah.
And that is something that my guides tell me all the times when I meditate, and that they say, yeah, yeah, you have these big mission and calling and so on, Pluto in the fifth house, and also you are allowed to enjoy life because you are here in a body on planet Earth,
Mm.
and this is no coincidence, and this is something that sometimes feels like I need to learn that.
Mm.
Um,
Remember
and
it.
yeah.
Yeah, and that probably all has to do with Uranus going over your sun,
Yeah, definitely.
awakening to,
Yeah.
reawakening
In
to
the
that.
body.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Come back into,
definitely.
which is interesting because I mean I think of Uranus as being energy and disparate and distracting and everything happening at once and stuff. But in your case well probably a combination of that and
And also,
therefore.
so you're very right because I always received this image of this Uranian energy needs a body where it can land.
Mm,
So all of
Container.
these, yeah, it needs something that it can land. And my guides even tell me, yeah, you can have all of these downloads and channeled messages, but if you don't, you are in a body on planet Earth. That means you need to bring it onto life, and you can just manifest and create it with your body. So please, darling, they said, learn to come down. Yeah.
and take care of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think that is also a collective learning with Uranus and Taurus. I mean, we are closing this phase over the next 2 years, but I think we can see that also on a collective level, um, so many more people wake up to the realization that we need to heal also on a somatic level. And I think so many somatic healing techniques, embodiment work, all of these topics really came with Uranus and Taurus. And I think it is actually the preparation and an important preparation for the upcoming years with so intense air energies.
Yeah.
I mean, whew, yeah.
Yeah.
Going to be interesting.
Yes.
And speaking of which, I don't know if you guys how much time you have. We had a an Aquarius new moon today, and you were talking about it being working into your setting off your chart, kicking it up. Um, do you guys want to talk a little bit about the new moon? I can share the chart and we can I've got a whole bunch of asteroids in there, I think, but let's see. I can.
I think it's
I was just Yeah, I was just bringing it up on my screen because I'm so visual. Someone throws planet signs at me and I have to write things down. And then I like to see an imagery, 12th house emphasis. So Sue, if you want to bring it up so we can just see
Okay.
what's what was happening again. But yeah, because it was going through your ninth house, Verena,
yeah.
the sun and moon. Yeah.
It's very, very fitting. I think that on the one hand, I mean, I really feel the trine to my Mercury. Um, oh yeah. But when I would talk about it more on a collective level, I really feel this, on the one hand, this intense Aquarius energy. Also, Uranus is already stationing. It will turn direct tomorrow.
No.
And the new moon conjunct Mercury, conjunct Pluto. And also, Mars is still stationing retrograde. So I have the feeling that it is right now, speaking on a collective level, but also what I experience on a personal level, is really that there is this moment of Uranus, sudden changes, Pluto, death and rebirth, a new opening, old ideas being released, and this liberation of old ways to think, to live, to do things. And on the other hand, being very open, receiving ideas. I have received a lot of ideas in the last days and waiting, not putting them into action right now.
Mhm.
So I received a lot of ideas in regard to my work, in regard to my offerings, and I've written them down. And I really feel this Mars still retrograde energy of not being too fast and really allowing yourself now to receive new insights, new perspectives, to release also North Node in Pisces, old stuff, but to allow yourself some time to be pregnant with them. Mars retrograde in Cancer.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and we also have Venus and Neptune with the North Node, and
Mm.
Jupiter stationing as well very soon. It's like this. And the other thing is that Mercury Venus is going to go over Neptune in the North Node, and then Venus eventually is going to station retrograde in Aries and then come back
Yes.
into Pisces. Mercury will come up and do the same thing, and it's fascinating that it feels like, we've got a foot a
Mm.
foot in two worlds,
Yeah.
where we're kind of, we're doing this dance between Pisces and Aries, and
I was gonna say we're toing and froing, we're doing this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will hold a whole workshop about Venus retrograde, and I will definitely cover this whole dynamic that we are having this year between Pisces and Aries. I did an course about the astrology of 2025. This was just in German, because I think the dance between Pisces and Aries is so strong. I mean, we have Saturn and Neptune
Right.
ingressing from Pisces into Aries. Then we have Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde between Pisces and Aries. So it's kind of this, for me, it feels like this lean back, trust, release, surrender, and then go into aligned action, and then lean back again, trust, surrender, go into aligned action. So it is this play between forward movement and trust, and the trust in divine timing, and also this play between okay, myself, my willpower, Aries, is connected to the divine, to something that is bigger than me, and playing with that without losing yourself, but also with opening up your ego perspective to something that is bigger. And I think that especially what we are feeling now with this Aquarius new moon, it feels like a little bit like a preparation. So there's really, on a mental level, liberate your mind, open up to
Yeah.
new without pressure to
Detach a little bit, kind of
yeah.
stand
Yeah.
back and detach and evaluate it all, and yeah.
I had actually written a post earlier and I actually wrote a question saying, are we ready to embrace our unique future?
I love
So
that.
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the question from this new moon that's coming up. And it's funny you talk about Aries, guys. I think of Aries as the warrior of light in its
Mm.
highest form, as the
Yeah.
warrior of light. And this is
Also,
what
not
I
Aries
kind all Aries would love that, I'm sure. But yeah, so I feel this new moon, it's that Mercury conjunct Pluto that really stood out for me. Is like we've got to think in different ways. The old way didn't work, it doesn't work.
Right.
So rather than just forgetting about it, we need to learn from it. What did work, what didn't work. And let's, you know, kind of plant new seeds that will help us collectively as a human race, as a collective race. And we need to do this individually for it to be a collective endeavor. And that's where that kind of you and me, that Aries Libra energy will also come into play. But you've been highlighting the asteroids, Sue. I'm just trying to figure out which one's
Well, okay, so let me
strongest.
Yeah.
so I forget, is your Pluto about 9, 7, 8, 9 degrees?
Mine?
Or yeah.
Yeah,
Or
it's
no, what
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And so here we have Vesta,
Eight. Yeah. Mm.
So
And then,
my Pluto is in 8 degree. Yeah, I know
Yes,
best
so it's kind
Pluto right now. Yeah.
and then we have Atlantis, our friend,
Mm.
and Hecate.
Maté, yeah, yeah. My Pluto right
So,
now.
I mean, that how perfect for you're getting ready to kind of guide this journey of Venus.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
so. We'll put a link to that in the description as well.
Oh, that would be
When is that starting?
I have set the exact date. So it's in German and in English
Okay.
again. So there will be a German and an English version. I will give it around March 18, 19.
Okay. All right. All
Yeah.
right. So we should have published this long before that. So it'll be in the
Yeah.
description.
Yeah. And
Um,
plus, we can put your website details on because you'll have it on your website, won't you, in terms
yeah.
of the courses and
Yeah.
workshops that you do.
Yeah, the best thing to stay connected is via my newsletter. So I have a very a live newsletter. So my newsletter is the best way to learn more about my offerings and to get informed about things like the Venus workshop or stuff like that. Yeah. And of course my
Perfect.
yeah.
So is there anything else about the new moon that we want to,
Mm.
or shall we just move on to your favorite question, Rob?
Of course, yes. Let's find out about some books. I know you're writing a book, like you mentioned. That's amazing. So I actually work part-time in a bookstore in London, and I love it because I love books. I'm a Virgo, and a good book on any day is my idea of heaven. And so I wanted to ask you if you can mention to the audience, what three books would you say has been that kind of changed your life, that's been powerful, apart from astrology books? Because astrology we've talking about, but any other books? Just earlier we were talking about vibes, right? And I sat there and I just thought there's another book that I loved when I first came into this whole kind of spirituality work and things by Sonia Choquette called Trust Your Vibes. That was one of the first books I read many, many years ago. It's been around, I think, for 30 odd years now. I'm kind of giving my age away. Um, but yeah, so trust your vibes. And it was so simply written, and it just gave guidance into how to trust your vibes. And I did some of the exercises in the book, and they worked. And I was like, huh. So that's kind of what opened my doors to vibes and connections and energy. So I just wanted the audiences to know that. But is there any books that you would recommend that could get people started in understanding themselves?
That is such a beautiful and also such a difficult question, Rob.
Yeah.
Just three? Only three?
Well, if you had to go to a desert island, right?
No, I don't like that question.
I would I would mention so no astrology books, right?
Oh,
Yeah, I just think, yeah, well, you can if you want to, that's fine. I just wanted something different for the audience, but yeah.
No, I think it's good to have no astrology books because I think we are talking about astrology all the time here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, yeah.
um, so I would say I'm just looking at my book,
Yeah.
at my books, that there are many books who have been very important in different parts of my life.
Right.
Also things like Herman Hesse, yeah, really, yeah, fiction.
Yeah.
But when I should mention some books that influenced me in the last months or years, I definitely would like to give me 1 second
Yeah,
because
sure.
I need the titles. Um, it's oh yes, these are good.
We
Um,
hear you.
I'm doing this like
um,
I need to stop buying books. Like I have literally no room. I need to figure this out.
I have
so
piles and bookshelves and
The last book that I found so powerful and so good. It's really for everyone who wants to connect with their Taurus and Cancer parts.
Nice.
It's Rest is Resistance by Tricia Hersey.
Right.
And the undertitle is Free Yourself from Grind Culture and Reclaim Your Life. And it's all about why rest is not only important and necessary, but really revolutionary and a way of resisting our culture. So it's a great book. So
That's a great concept.
my Taurus son loves it, and it's so Uranus Taurus too.
Yes.
Then a book that really my Gemini parts love. I have the German version here, but the original is in English, and it's from the founder of Internal Family System, EFS, Richard Schwartz. It's the title is No Bad Parts, and it's a nice introductory into parts work, so that we all have different parts and how we can find more connection to these different parts of us. So it's perfect for every healer, but it's also perfect for doing a little bit of self-healing, and practices are in the book that you can really, I would say for Gemini moons, especially powerful.
Okay, I'll check it out. So it's about integrating all of the different parts. Yeah, I like it.
It's about integrating and finding connection between the different inner parts that you have, like, for example, the inner critic, the inner child, and so on, and bringing more connection to these different parts of you. Yeah, it's a very powerful, very good book that I recommend to many of my clients too, because it's really good for self-help too. And then I'm a little bit, so there's one, okay. Do I have two books?
Of course.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Called The Myth of Normal by Gabor Maté.
Oh,
It's really, I mean, it's very thick,
wow.
but it's essential. It's so good.
He's great.
We have it now in paperback. It's not as thick. Mine is somewhere here too. But yeah, it's his work. Any of his books. But yeah.
And this book is especially powerful because it is all about why our society makes everyone sick and why everyone gets traumatized by just living in this meritocracy. And it's so good. And just as a
Trying to be
bonus,
normal.
yeah,
Normal.
I was just about to do that as well.
one bonus book is because it is
Nice.
so beautiful and magical. It's called You Are the Medicine. It's by Asha Frost. And the undertitle is 13 Moons of Indigenous Wisdom, Ancestral Connection, and Animal Spirit Guidance.
Wow.
And it's
Love
looking at
that.
the moon, not from an astrological perspective, but from an indigenous wisdom perspective. And this book is so healing and so beautiful and powerful. And I love Asha Frost. She has beautiful oracle decks too. She is an indigenous healer, and she's a light worker, I would say too. Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Right, that's on my list now. Oh, well, I've got one of them. The other three are on my list.
Are you going to have to move into a bigger place, Rob?
I have to give away at least 6 books, which I will.
How can you, I mean, well, how do you do that? They're like children.
You're right. I will breathe it through.
Okay, well, okay, so then let's end with my question of what do you do in your spare time?
I love horseback riding. I love horses are my big love. 12th house. I learn so much on so many levels, on an energy level, on a body level. So it was one reason why I moved from the inner city of Munich to the countryside, to Austria, where I'm living now, that I can do horseback riding, which I did when I was a little girl. And I don't have my own horse. I rent a horse, but I'm going to him twice a week and I take lessons.
Nice.
Um, and it's such a magical being, and he's a Pisces. Um, I have his chart, and he's
Oh,
such a
sweet.
special spirit and a big teacher. So I would say horses, and I also love to be in nature. So I have now it's winter, so it's not working, but I have a racing bike. So I love to bicycle and I love swimming. We have beautiful lakes here in summer, so I love to ride my bicycle, swim in the lake, sunbath. So this is really gardening in summer. So winter is hard for me because there's not so much to do for me that I love,
Not
but
so much for your Taurus Cancer to do, except for rest
yeah,
And
yeah.
read books.
and read books. And that,
Yeah.
that reminds me, I just bought, my sister has horses, and I just bought a book for her about the magical healing property of horses.
Interesting. So for all horse lovers, I have a special book recommendation, and the title is Horse Brain, Human Brain.
Wow.
That is
Oh,
all about learning how horses actually perceive the world, and it's mind-blowing. Everyone who has to do something with horses needs to read this book. Yeah.
Wow.
beautiful.
This has been so much fun. I always
Thank
enjoy talking with you, Verena, because you have such diverse perspectives, and you're so exact in your articulation of what it is that you're feeling and wanting to say. I just love it. So
you. No,
Likewise.
thank you, Verena. It's been lovely to get to know you as well. And hopefully you will come back to us because I'm pretty sure Sue will be doing second round of interviews with our favorite astrologers because it's been so much fun and we can talk about so much more,
yeah,
and stuff to just to yeah connect with the audience again as well. So
yeah,
thank you.
It
yeah,
was an honor, a pleasure. I thank you. And yeah, I think the best way to stay connected, as I said, for everyone who's watching, is to I have a free gift. You can get my free Astro Archetype guide, and yeah, you can subscribe to my newsletter. You find all of my offerings on my website. So thank you both so much
and,
for
and you
inviting me.
also periodically will submit a monthly forecast or a monthly talk about the energies of the month for EA Zoom meetings. So we post that on our YouTube channel as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you both. Bye.